Welcome to Fact Horizon. This is where history meets mystery and facts define the future. We explore the profound truths of human existence, the wonders of the mind, and the secrets of the cosmos, all in one place. If you seek knowledge and wonder, you're in the right spot. Subscribe now and join our journey beyond the horizon.
It is fantastic to be here. And I have to say, today we are taking a fascinating detour. Usually we're deep in hard data, historical records, astrophysics. But today we are heading into the laboratory of human emotion.
We absolutely are. Today, we begin our deep dive into Ali Hazelwood's The Love Hypothesis. In this first part, we will discuss the foundational chapters that set this scientific romance in motion. Chapter 1, The Lab Kiss. Chapter 2, The Rumor Mill. Chapter 3, The Agreement. And Chapter 4, The Unlikely Pair.
Now, before you, the listener, wonder if we've suddenly pivoted to a standard book club, I want to clarify our mission here.
Okay.
We aren't just retelling a love story. We are here to analyze the narrative structure, the character motivations, and I think this is really important, the unique academic setting of Ali Hazelwood's novel.
Yes.
We are focusing specifically on the catalyst events in these first 4 chapters. So we're treating this text as a case study in how professional ambition collides with personal chaos.
Exactly. We're going to put on our lab coats and examine this text as a narrative case study. So no shipping wars today, though. I mean, the chemistry is undeniable, but rather a professional breakdown of how 2 very different variables, olive and atom, collide. And honestly, this book does a better job of explaining the toxic pressures of modern academia than, well, most nonfiction articles I've read.
That is a great point to start on. The setting here isn't just window dressing. It is the pressure cooker that makes the entire plot possible. So to understand the reaction, we have to first understand the elements involved. Let's start with our protagonist, Olive Smith.
Okay, let's unpack Olive. We meet her right away in Chapter 1, and she isn't exactly living the glamorous life.
It's not even close.
She is a third-year PhD candidate at Stanford University's biology department. And I think we need to pause right there and define what that actually means for you, the listener. Because student sounds like she goes to class and goes home.
Right.
That's not what a third-year PhD candidate is it?
Not at all. And this is so crucial for understanding her stress levels. A PhD candidate in the hard sciences is, well, they're essentially a junior employee who works 60 to 80 hours a week.
At least.
At least. They're running experiments, managing lab equipment, and producing data for the university, usually for a stipend that barely covers rent in a place like Palo Alto.
So it's high pressure, low reward, financially speaking.
It involves a lot of caffeine and very, very little money.
So when we meet her, the book immediately creates this context of high pressure and scarcity. She's tired, she's broke, and she's wearing expired contact lenses because she can't afford new ones.
That detail really stuck with me.
Me too. It's such a visceral way to show, not just tell, that she is living on the edge. But she isn't just grinding for the sake of a title. What is driving her? What's her why?
Well, Olive is defined by her dedication. The text tells us she is deeply committed to her research on pancreatic cancer detection. And this isn't just, some abstract academic curiosity.
No, it's personal.
It's a deeply personal drive.
Right.
It stems from the loss of her mother to the same disease. Hazelwood gives us this anchor very early on to show that Olive isn't flighty. She has a real mission.
Which makes her so relatable, but also really formidable. She's not just there for a degree. She's battling the systemic issues of academia, the low pay, the long hours, and that imposter syndrome feeling that you're always just one mistake away from complete failure.
Yes, that's a huge part of it.
She's devoted to science, maybe a little socially awkward, but she is fierce when it comes to her friends.
And that loyalty to her friends is actually the inciting incident for the entire plot. It's what kicks everything off. We have to talk about the best friend paradox.
The paradox that ruins, or, well, in this case, starts everything. This is the mechanism that sets the whole plot in motion. So, lay it out for us. What is the social knot Olive is trying to untie here?
It's a classic logic puzzle of social dynamics. So
Right.
Olive has a best friend, Anne.
Right.
Olive previously had a very brief, completely insignificant relationship with a guy named Jeremy.
A blip in her data, as she might say.
Exactly. Olive is completely over Jeremy. But the problem is all likes Jeremy.
But An won't date him.
Correct. Anne refuses to date him because of the girl code, that unwritten rule that you do not date your best friend's ex. Anne is convinced that Olive is still pining for him, or that it would, hurt Olive's feelings.
So Olive's motivation here is entirely altruistic. She's not doing this for herself. She wants to prove to An that she has moved on so that An feels free to date Jeremy without any guilt.
Right. It's a classic farce setup, but it's grounded in a very real social anxiety.
Olive needs empirical evidence that she is unavailable. She needs to prove a negative, that she isn't lonely or sad.
Exactly. And words are not enough for An. Anne needs to see it. Which leads us to the fateful night in the lab. It's late. Olive is working because of course she is.
Of course. It's Friday night. Where else would she be?
She sees An coming down the hallway, and Olive knows that if An sees her working alone in a lab on a Friday night, it just reinforces the sad, lonely, pining ex narrative.
She needs to look busy and romantically busy.
Kaylee.
Panic sets in. So what does a socially awkward biologist do when her fight or flight response kicks in? She doesn't run.
No, she doesn't.
She grabs the first man she sees in the hallway and kisses him.
It is an impulsive, chaotic, completely unpeer-reviewed data point. She stages a date in the middle of a corridor. But the variable she didn't account for was the identity of the man she grabbed.
Now, here's the twist. It's not just some random grad student or, I don't know, a janitor. She pulls away and realizes she has just planted a kiss on Dr. Adam Carlson.
Mm-hmm.
And for those listening who haven't read the bio yet or aren't familiar with this kind of archetype, this is bad. How bad are we talking?
We're talking catastrophic in a professional sense. We really need to profile Adam Carlson to understand the gravity of this mistake. He is a young professor, brilliant, yes, but his reputation is that of the department tyrant.
The guy's notorious. I mean, the sources describe him as unyielding, critical, and, frankly, terrifying.
He's known for making students cry. He freezes funding. He critiques work until it bleeds red ink. He is the antagonist of every grad student's nightmare.
He's the physical embodiment of reviewer number 2 on a peer-reviewed paper.
Precisely. He represents the ultimate gatekeeper, the person who holds the power to destroy your entire career with a single email. And yet Olive just essentially assaulted him. She kissed a superior faculty member without consent in the workplace.
Right. Panic doesn't even begin to cover it. Olive is expecting an explosion. She's expecting to be reported, maybe expelled. She's seeing her entire PhD flash before her eyes because she tried to trick her best friend.
But, and here's where it gets really interesting, that's not what happens. And this is our first clue that the tyrant data might be skewed, or at least incomplete. Instead of exploding, Adam is surprisingly calm.
I mean, he's shocked.
Oh, he's shocked, certainly. And he's skeptical. But he doesn't yell. He presses her for an explanation rather than dragging her to the dean's office.
He asks her why, and Olive, bless her heart, has to explain the whole convoluted best friend paradox to this terrifying man.
She has to tell Dr. Doom that she used him as a prop to help her friend get a date.
Can you imagine?
And he just listens. This is the end of chapter 1, and it leaves us with such a fascinating dynamic. You have Olive, this chaotic, well-meaning force, colliding with Adam, the immovable, rigid object, and somehow the collision doesn't destroy them. It sets up the hypothesis.
Which brings us right into segment 2 and chapter 2, the aftermath. The kiss was supposed to be a one-time thing, right? A blip in the data.
A single anomalous reading.
But we're at a university. And you know what travels faster than light in a university?
Gossip.
Exactly. The rumor mill.
Chapter 2 really dives into the social ecosystem of Stanford. The text mentions a sort of law of physics regarding gossip in academia.
What's that?
Rumors spread instantly and often inversely proportional to how much you want them kept secret.
So Olive is terrified. She thinks this is it. She's going to be known as the girl who hooked up with the professor who fails everyone. She's worried about the professional fallout.
Understandably.
She wants to be taken seriously as a scientist, not looked at as the tyrant's girlfriend. And it touches on a really potent fear for women in STEM, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The fear that your achievements will be overshadowed by who you're sleeping with or who people think you're sleeping with.
That your merit will just be completely erased by this rumor. But while Olive is worrying about her reputation, we find out that Adam has a very different problem, a problem that requires a very specific solution.
And this is where the plot thickens from a simple rom-com setup to a structural negotiation.
This is the convergence of needs. It turns out even the great Dr. Adam Carlson has a boss, and the department has frozen his research funds.
This is a crucial plot point to understand, and we should really explain the why here. Why would a star professor who brings in prestige and grant money have his funds frozen?
It seems counterintuitive.
It does, but the text explains that the department believes he is a flight risk.
They think he's going to Harvard.
Right. And universities, at the end of the day, are businesses. If Stanford thinks Adam is about to take his millions of dollars in grant money and move to Boston, they are going to lock those accounts down to keep him there. Or at least to keep the money there.
It's a retention strategy, a really aggressive one.
It is. So they freeze his money to keep him from taking his grants and running. But Adam needs that money. He has research to do, postdocs to pay. He needs to prove to the department that he is anchored to Stanford, that he's putting down roots.
And in the eyes of the administration, what suggests putting down roots more than entering a committed relationship with a graduate student in his own department.
It implies emotional ties to the location. It makes him look stable and settled.
It's the perfect storm. Adam needs to look like he's staying to unlock his bank account. Olive needs to look like she's taken, so Anna will bait Jeremy.
And we should pause and analyze the motivation here. This is the fake dating trope, which is a staple of the romance genre.
A classic.
But usually it's used for something like, I need a date to my sister's wedding. Hazelwood grounds it in professional necessity. It's transactional. It is, it's game theory.
It really is. It's not, I saw you across a crowded room and fell in love. It's, I need funding and you need a cover story. It's a business deal.
Exactly. Adam's incentive is purely logistical at this stage, or so he claims. If he is seen in a relationship, the department assumes he isn't moving to Boston, and they'll release his funds.
And Olive's incentive is social protection. She's protecting her friendship.
The agreement they reach in Chapter 2 is a mutually beneficial deception. It elevates the stakes beyond just romance to survival, both academic and social survival.
I love how pragmatic they are about it. Well, mostly Adam. Olive is still freaking out internally, as you would be.
Of course.
But they agree to do this. They're going to fake date. They're going to run the experiment.
This moves us neatly into Chapter 3, which is all about establishing the parameters of this experiment. We call this Segment 3, Establishing Boundaries.
So Olive goes to Adam's office to set the terms. And the setting here is so important. How is his office described? It says so much.
Oh, it's described as totally devoid of personal touches. No photos, no plans, nothing on the walls. It creates this stark, sterile environment.
It's his reputation in a room.
It is. It reinforces that cold, imposing persona. It tells us that this man lives for his work and absolutely nothing else.
It reflects his whole personality. He is efficient, austere. But this meeting is about defining the rules of engagement. And they have to address the professional limitations first.
Right, because this is academia and there are ethics, even if they are bending them quite a bit. They clarify immediately that Adam cannot supervise Olive's research.
That's a huge conflict of interest.
Massive. So they draw a professional line in the sand right away. He cannot be her grader, her advisor, or her judge in any official capacity.
But then they have to draw the personal lines.
Right.
And this is where the dialogue reveals so much about their characters and their assumptions.
It really does.
Olive explicitly insists on a no-sex clause.
This moment is hilarious, but also quite telling about Olive's worldview. She just blurts it out. No sex. And Adam is genuinely shocked.
His reaction is key here. He doesn't just agree, he says he wasn't expecting that at all. Why is that so significant?
It completely subverts Olive's expectation of men, perhaps, or specifically her expectation of him as a powerful figure. Olive anticipates a predatory dynamic.
She does. She assumes that a man in power entering a fake arrangement might demand, payment in flesh, so to speak.
It hints at the dangers women often have to navigate in these professional hierarchical spaces. She's preemptively defending herself.
And Adam is just like, yeah, obviously. It's such a great moment that cracks his villain facade just a little bit. He's not a creep. He's just a grump. He seems almost offended that she even thought he would suggest it.
Precisely. It establishes that while he might be a tyrant about data integrity, he has personal honor. They also have to figure out the logistics. How do you fake a relationship efficiently? Adam Carlson doesn't have time for real dates, let alone fake ones.
Efficiency is the name of the game. They agree to weekly coffee dates.
Yeah.
Wednesdays at 10 a.m. And there's a reason for that time.
Right. It's not random. It's because that's when the quad is busiest. Maximum visibility.
They only need to be seen together for exactly 10 minutes to maintain the charade.
10 minutes a week to solve both of their problems. It seems like a sound hypothesis on paper. Minimal variable input, maximum desired output.
But as any scientist knows, Field data rarely matches the lab model perfectly,
Almost never.
which brings us to Chapter 4 and Segment 4, the first data point, the first date.
The setting shifts from the sterile lab or the imposing office to a coffee shop on campus. This is neutral ground, it's public, it's noisy, it's the real world.
And Olive arrives, and she is already having a bad day. Her lab work failed, something with expired lenses or bad samples. She's irritated, she's just not in the mood. And then she sees him.
And here is a crucial shift in perspective. Up until now, Adam has been the tyrant or the solution. He's been a problem to be managed. But in the coffee shop, Olive notices him physically. The text describes his rugged handsomeness.
She realizes he's actually hot, which is just really annoying for her given his reputation. But it's the first time she really looks at him as a man, not just a professor. The female gaze really kicks in here.
Yes, the narrative camera shifts focus, but the dynamic is still incredibly awkward. They're trying to follow the script. Olive, however, does something interesting regarding the transaction.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that. She insists on paying for her own drink.
She does.
I love this detail.
Yeah.
She wants to maintain a clear line. This is fake dating, not financial dependence. She's broke. She's literally counting pennies for those contact lenses, but she is fiercely independent.
It asserts her agency. She doesn't want to be the grad student living off the rich professor. She is an equal partner in this deception, not a subordinate.
But then we get a character quirk that serves to humanize Adam, the pumpkin spice latte.
Well, the PSL debate, Adam hates them. He has this utter disdain for sugary coffee drinks. He's a black coffee purist, of course.
Of course he is.
It seems trivial, but these little details, the dislike of pumpkin spice, the punctuality, they start to flesh him out. It codes him as someone who rejects fluff.
Right.
But then, despite Olive's protest about paying, and despite his clear disdain for the sugary drinks she wants, Adam pays for her order.
He does. And he doesn't do it in a condescending way or a power play way. He just does it. And it introduces this small dynamic of care.
It does. For a guy who is supposed to be a tyrant, buying a broke student her sugary coffee is a surprisingly nice gesture. It's a small act of service.
It contradicts the label. It creates cognitive dissonance for Olive and for the reader. And as they sit there, the conversation starts to shift. They move past the tactical planning of their fake relationship and start actually talking.
They realize they have a shared rhythm. The banter starts to flow. It's not just awkward silence. They discover they can actually talk to each other.
This is the chemistry check. They believe they had nothing in common. He, the established, rigid academic, she, the struggling, chaotic student. But they find a common language.
And what is that language?
They are both scientists. They both value logic and data and truth.
Exactly. And we get some backstory. Adam reveals he grew up in the Netherlands.
Which serves two purposes, I think. First, it explains his directness. Dutch culture is often characterized by a high degree of directness that, Americans can interpret as rude or aggressive.
That's a great point. It reframes his tyranny as potentially just a cultural communication style.
And second, it moves him from a two-dimensional antagonist to a three-dimensional human being in all his eyes. He has a history. He has a place he comes from. He wasn't just, spontaneously generated in a lab to torture grad students.
Right. But just as things are getting almost friendly, or at least civil, we get a foreshadowing of future complications.
The mention of Dr. Tom Benton.
Adam's friend from Harvard.
The science hottie, as I might call him.
Benton represents the external threat to their little arrangement. He is the reason the department thinks Adam is leaving in the first place. His introduction here plants a seed for future conflict and plot development.
It reminds the reader and Olive that the fake dating premise rests on a very precarious foundation. Adam's potential departure for Harvard. So let's look at where we are at the end of Chapter 4. Let's synthesize. The contract is signed. The first date is in the books.
And the perception of Adam Carlson is shifting, at least for Olive. He has gone from villain to ally. A fake ally, officially. But the lines are already blurring. The experiment is running, but the variables are changing in real time.
And the core theme here is really clear. It's the collision of professional ambition. Adam needing his funding, Olive needing her research time and social peace with personal chaos.
It asks the question, can you compartmentalize human connection? They are trying to put their relationship in a test tube, control all the variables, and use it for a specific, predictable result. They think they can perform romance without actually feeling it.
But human variables are rarely that predictable, are they?
Exactly. Entropy always increases. Things tend towards chaos.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Why should we care about a fake dating scheme in a biology department at Stanford?
Because it highlights the extreme pressures of that environment. The fact
Yeah.
that these two brilliant people have to resort to what is basically a high school charade to secure funding and social autonomy,
Hmm.
it speaks volumes about the fragility of their positions.
That's a great point.
It's funny, yes, but it's also a commentary on the lengths people have to go to just to do their work. It shows that even the smartest people can make incredibly irrational decisions when pushed into a corner by the system.
And it sets up the stakes for everything that follows. If this fails, Adam loses his funding, which could derail his entire research program. And Olive, well, Olive is back to square one with An, and now she looks like a liar on top of it.
Precisely. The experiment has begun. The hypothesis is that this arrangement will solve their problems without any unforeseen complications.
But we all know that in science, the hypothesis is just the best guess before the explosion happens.
Indeed. And looking at this initial data, I'd say the probability of an explosion is high.
This brings us to the end of part 1 of our Love Hypothesis series.
We have covered the setup. Next time, things get messy.
Join us for part 2 of this series, where we will explore the rules of engagement. We'll analyze how a lecture hall incident involving yes, you heard that right, and a sunscreen mishap begin to crack the professional facade they've built.
We will see the lines between hypothesis and reality begin to blur significantly.
You won't want to miss it. Until then, keep questioning your data.
And always check your variables. It is good to be back, and if our last session was, let's say, the abstract of this experiment.
Yeah.
Setting up the characters, the initial catalyst, that very impulsive, panic-induced kiss.
The kiss.
Then today we are moving firmly into the methodology, or maybe the experimental phase.
I love that, the experimental phase, because honestly, things are getting volatile. We are covering part 2 today, specifically looking at chapters 5 through 8.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a listener who loves a good slow burn, or you just enjoy watching really smart people make absolutely chaotic life choices, then you are in the right place.
We certainly are. Our mission today is really to analyze the evolution of a charade.
Yes.
And also the realities of academia. We've moved past the setup. The deal has been struck. Olive Smith and Dr. Adam Carlson are officially fake dating. But as anyone who studies behavioral psychology, or frankly reads romance novels, knows, maintaining a controlled environment is basically impossible when you introduce human variables.
Exactly. The hypothesis is we can fake this relationship to trick my best friend and free up your research funds, and no one catches feelings.
Mm-hmm.
The result?
Wow.
Well, the data is starting to look a little outliers heavy.
I like that.
We're going to be talking about the sunscreen incident, which fans go wild for, the infamous department picnic, and how Olive's actual research into pancreatic cancer starts to get all tangled up with her fake boyfriend.
And we also have to address the elephant in the room, or maybe the advisor in the room,
Right.
the conflict of loyalties. We see the introduction of real social friction when Adam's reputation as the department villain actually impacts Olive's friends. It raises a really critical question. Can you be a good friend while dating the enemy, even if the dating is fake?
Oh, the drama. I love it. It's that crossing the picket line dilemma. But, okay, before we get to all the heavy ethical stuff, we have to start where we left off.
Right.
The pact is sealed. They're fake dating.
Yeah.
And now they have to sell it.
Right. And in the world of this novel, selling it doesn't mean changing your social media status.
No.
It means performance. Chapter 5 drops us right into the biology department picnic. Now, for those outside of academia, a department picnic might sound like a casual, fun afternoon.
Yeah, potato salad, maybe some Frisbee.
Right. But within this hierarchy, it is a performance review with hot dogs.
A performance review with hot dogs. That is terrifyingly accurate. And Olive is there, trying to look natural, trying to look like the girlfriend of the most intimidating man on campus.
It's such a high-stakes environment. You have the department chair there, you have the tenured faculty, the postdocs, the grad students. It is a rigid social hierarchy just masquerading as leisure.
Totally.
Everyone is watching everyone else. Who is talking to whom? Who is getting access to the grant committee head?
Oh, yeah.
And for Olive, the pressure is twofold. She has to navigate all that, but she also has to perform this romantic role for her friend, Olive.
And this is where we get the sunscreen dynamic. I feel like we need to really unpack the sensory details here because the source is so specific about the heat, the sweat, the physicality of it all.
It is a pivotal moment for the fake aspect of the relationship because it challenges the boundaries they set. Up until now, their interactions have been mostly verbal. They negotiate terms in cool, air-conditioned offices. They stand in hallways.
Right, very professional.
But at a picnic in the sun, engaged in physical games, the barrier of professionalism is physically removed.
Is literally removed.
Yeah.
Because Adam takes his shirt off.
He does.
And I need to pause here because the book makes a huge point of this. Olive is a scientist. She observes data. And the data she is receiving is that Adam Carlson, the man who terrifies grad students for a living, is, to just quote the vibe of the text, absolutely shredded.
It creates a massive moment of cognitive dissonance for Olive.
Okay, what is that exactly?
Cognitive dissonance is that psychological stress we feel when we hold two contradictory beliefs at the same time. So belief A, Adam, is an arrogant, inaccessible, evil professor.
The hypothesis.
Exactly. Belief B, Adam, is, well, physically attractive, engaging in play, and acting like a normal human being. Her brain is just scrambling to reconcile these two versions of the man.
And she is flustered and intrigued. I love that description. It's the first real crack in the wall. She's watching him play these active games, and her friends are watching her watch him.
That's such a key pressure point. Her friends, specifically Anna and Malcolm, they serve as the Greek chorus here.
Oh, yeah.
They're interpreting the scene for her. They're teasing her, making those awkward comments like, oh, look at your boyfriend, or commenting on his physique. And the social pressure, it acts as a reinforcement mechanism.
How does that work psychologically?
Well, even though Olive knows it's fake, the world around her is treating it as real. And when everyone reflects a reality back at you, it becomes so much harder to maintain that internal separation.
It starts to feel real.
It's a form of behavioral activation. If you force yourself to smile, you actually start to feel happier. If you perform the role of a girlfriend, sitting on the blanket, holding the sunscreen, accepting the teasing, you start to open up the neural pathways to actually feeling the affection you're pretending to have.
You perform the role so well, you forget it's a role.
Exactly. It's the fake it till you make it principle, but for love.
And speaking of physical proximity, we have to talk about the actual act of applying the sunscreen.
Yes. This connects directly back to the lap incident that's mentioned earlier in the text, where she had to sit on his lap in that crowded lecture hall.
Right.
Both of these are instances of forced proximity, which is a beloved trope, but in a psychological sense, they are about breaking the touch barrier.
Right, because in a professional relationship, especially with an advisor or a senior faculty member, there's an invisible bubble. You do not enter the bubble. You definitely do not touch the bubble.
Precisely. But once that bubble is popped by, sitting on a lap or applying sunscreen at a picnic, it is very, very hard to reinflate it. The brain has registered this person as safe to touch.
Yeah.
When she touches his back to apply the sunscreen, she is registering his skin temperature, his muscle structure. She is mapping him as a human, not just a boss.
And the text notes that he is surprisingly chill about it. He doesn't make it weird. He's just sturdy.
Sturdy is a good word.
Right.
And that sturdiness, it translates to his emotional presence as well. When that sunscreen moment happens, which implies this level of caretaking and touching skin, it reinforces that Adam isn't just a prop in her scheme.
No.
He's becoming a source of physical comfort.
Which is dangerous.
Extremely dangerous for the hypothesis,
Right.
because the hypothesis relies entirely on emotional detachment. Physical intimacy, even fake intimacy, releases oxytocin. It bonds you. Olive is fighting biology here, and, well, biology usually wins.
Okay, so while Olive is busy hyperventilating over Adam's abs at the picnic, there's actually serious work happening in the background.
Yes.
We need to pivot to the realities of academia, because this book isn't just about the romance. It's about the grind.
Absolutely. And I really appreciate that the source material emphasizes Olive's actual work. She isn't just a student in the abstract. She is a researcher with a very specific high-stakes goal.
Right. She's working on early detection for pancreatic cancer using biomarkers. Can we break that down a bit? Biomarkers, for the non-scientists listening, why is that detail so important?
Sure. A biomarker is basically a biological molecule you can find in blood or other fluids or tissues that is a sign of a normal or an abnormal process.
Like a clue.
Think of it like a footprint in the mud. Olive is trying to find the footprint of pancreatic cancer long before the monster itself is visible.
Because pancreatic cancer is notoriously difficult to detect early, right?
It's often called the silent killer. By the time symptoms appear, things like jaundice, significant weight loss, abdominal pain, the cancer has often already metastasized.
So it's too late.
At that point, the survival rates just drop precipitously. So Olive is trying to find a non-invasive way, probably a blood test, to catch it when it's still treatable.
And this isn't just academic for her. The book reveals that this is deeply, deeply personal.
Yes. We learn that Olive lost her mother to pancreatic cancer. This is the ghost in the story, the past trauma that haunts and drives the protagonist.
Wow.
Olive isn't just trying to get a degree, she is on a crusade. She is trying to retroactively solve the puzzle that killed her mother.
That adds so much weight to her character. She's not just doing this for fun, she's working through her grief.
Exactly, and she's struggling. The text details her issues with knockout mice, which are genetically modified mice used for research, and she's fighting for funding, for lab space, for resources.
That part feels so real.
It is the reality of PhD life. It's 90% begging for resources and 10% actually doing the science.
And those mice are expensive. I remember the text mentioning she's worried about expiration dates on chemicals and just the cost of keeping the mice alive.
That is real visceral panic. If the funding dries up, the mice have to be culled, which is a nice way of saying killed. The research stops, and the potential cure for pancreatic cancer gets delayed.
That's the stake.
That is the stake. It's not just I might fail a class, it's the mission fails.
And this is where Adam steps out of the fake boyfriend role and into the professional ally role. And honestly, this dynamic is fascinating.
It really is. Let's look at the coffee meeting scene. Olive has this massive opportunity. Dr. Tom Benton from Harvard is interested in her work.
Which is huge.
He's in town, and she has one chance to pitch her research to him.
But she's so nervous, she's spiraling, she thinks she's going to bomb the meeting. She has like major imposter syndrome.
Which is rampant in academia. She feels like she doesn't belong in the room with these titans of biology. And typically, the Adam Carlson reputation would suggest he'd be critical.
Oh yeah, he's known for making students cry. For tearing apart weak arguments.
But here, we see a completely different side of his pedagogy. He doesn't coddle her, but he coaches her.
He preps her. The source says he asks well-phrased questions. He helps her articulate her research. It's like he sees that her brain is working, but her nerves are jamming the signal.
Yeah.
And he just helps her tune the frequency.
Precisely. He validates her intellect. He treats her as a peer, or at least a junior colleague with promise, rather than some clueless student.
It's like a sparring match.
It is. He's throwing intellectual punches, asking tough questions about her methodology so that when she gets in the ring with Dr. Benton, she won't get knocked out. He is making her stronger.
And there is a very specific detail in the source regarding that meeting that I found really, really touching. When the conversation with Dr. Benton gets too close to the topic of Olive's mother, her personal trauma.
Adam intervenes, yes. He redirects the conversation. He protects her.
That is a key tell, right?
Right.
A fake boyfriend doesn't need to know your trauma triggers. A fake boyfriend doesn't need to shield you from emotional pain in a professional meeting.
No.
That is the behavior of someone who's paying very close attention to you, not just the deal.
It's that protective instinct. And it's so subtle. He doesn't make a scene. He just steers the ship away from the rocks. He knows the science is strong, but the scientist is hurting. So he protects the scientist so the science can shine.
And because of that, Olive crushes the meeting. She totally impresses Dr. Benton.
She does, and that shared victory, because it really is a shared victory, bonds them. It creates a foundation of professional respect.
Right.
And in a field like academia, having someone like Adam Carlson, who hates everyone's work, tell you that your work is good, that is a dopamine hit stronger than any romance.
So true. If the guy who fails everyone thinks you're smart, you feel like a genius.
Yeah.
But speaking of the guy who fails everyone, we have to talk about Greg.
Yes, Greg. The inevitable collision of Olive's two worlds.
This brings us to segment 3, the conflict of loyalties. Because as great as Adam is being to Olive, he is still Adam. He is still the department villain.
The antagonist of the biology department, as he's known. The source describes an incident where Adam fails Greg's dissertation proposal.
Which is a huge deal.
It's catastrophic. It sets you back months, maybe a year. It impacts your funding, your visa status sometimes, your mental health. It is a massive blow.
And Greg is Olive's friend, or at least appears she hangs out with. So Greg comes to Olive, venting, probably crying, just hating Adam's guts. And Olive is standing there, the girlfriend of the man who just ruined Greg's life.
It places Olive in an impossible ethical bind. This is where we see the concept of tribalism in academia.
Okay.
Olive belongs to the tribe of grad students. Their common enemy is the tribe of professors, specifically the harsh ones, the gatekeepers. By dating Adam, she has fraternized with the enemy.
She's a traitor to the cause.
In Greg's eyes, yes. And Olive defends Adam. That's the kicker. She actually defends him to Greg.
Why does she do that? Is she just blinded by, like, the fake love? Or is she actually seeing something Greg isn't?
I think she's trying to be objective. She knows Adam's standards are high, but she also respects rigor. The source implies that Greg's work might actually have been flawed.
So Adam was right.
Adam failed him because the science wasn't ready. But Greg doesn't see it that way. He sees it as personal cruelty.
And Olive has to decide. Do I trust Adam's judgment, or do I trust my friend's feelings?
And she chooses Adam's judgment. She suggests that maybe Adam had a point, but saying, my boyfriend is right and your work sucks, to a crying friend.
Yeah, that's social suicide.
It is. It creates immediate social friction. She feels defensive, but also guilty. The source mentions she questions if she's a bad person for dating someone who acts so arrogantly or exercises power so bluntly.
It just highlights that power imbalance, doesn't it? Adam holds the keys to the gate. Olive is still standing outside the gate with the other students.
Exactly.
By dating him, even faking it, she has crossed the picket line, so to speak. She's aligned herself with management against the workers.
That is a great way to put it. Cross the picket line. And it isolates her. She can't fully commiserate with her friends anymore because she's with him. And that isolation, paradoxically, drives her closer to Adam. If her friends reject her, or if she feels she can't be honest with them, Adam becomes her only safe harbor.
It's a classic us against the world setup.
But it's created by the academic hierarchy. And because she's getting to know the real Adam, the guy who buys her coffee and helps her with her presentation, she starts to think, maybe he's not the bad guy. Maybe he's just misunderstood.
Which is the classic romantic hero archetype. The brooding, misunderstood guy.
Exactly. The Byronic hero, harsh to the world but soft to the heroine. But in a modern academic setting, that archetype is problematic. It borders on toxic leadership.
True.
And I think the book and Olive grapples with that. She doesn't just accept it. She challenges him on it later. But for now, she is stuck right in the middle.
Stuck in the middle with you. And by you, I mean Adam. Okay, so we have the public performance at the picnic, the professional alliance in the meeting, and the social conflict with Greg. Now let's look at how the lines are completely blurring in their private moments. This brings us to segment 4.
This is where the fake label really starts to just peel off. And it happens through modern intimacy, text messaging.
Yes, the texting. I feel like texting is such a huge part of modern dating, and it's perfect for them because they're both, kind of awkward nerds. They can be wittier over text.
It allows for a controlled release of personality. You can edit a text. You can't edit a stutter in real time. The source describes a back-and-forth conversation that balances professionalism with this personal connection.
Right.
They are building a rapport that exists outside of the performance. They aren't texting to trick Anne. They are texting because they want to talk to each other.
It establishes object permanence for the relationship.
Yeah.
If you only exist when you are in the same room, it's a situational relationship.
Yeah.
If you exist in each other's pockets all day.
It's a persistent relationship.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the content of the texts matters. They're bantering. Banter is a sign of safety. You only tease someone if you trust they won't, attack you.
And then we get the flu shot moment. I love this because it's such a comedy of errors.
It is. Olive gets a message. She interprets it as Adam canceling on her a fake date cancellation. She assumes he's blowing her off because, well, he's Adam Carlson. He's busy. He's important.
She's ready to be annoyed. She's putting her armor back on. She's like, fine, whatever. I didn't want to go anyway.
But then the truth comes out. He isn't canceling. He is in pain. He had a flu shot and his arm hurts.
It's so mundane.
It is such a mundane human vulnerability. The big, scary Dr. Carlson is whining about a flu shot.
It totally humanizes him.
It brings him down from the pedestal of the department villain to just a guy who needs an Advil. And the exchange becomes playful. It lifts Olive's spirits.
And it shows that he feels comfortable enough to complain to her. You don't whine about a flu shot to your employee. You do it to your partner.
Or your friend. And that is the crucial shift.
Yeah.
They are becoming friends. And that friendship is deepening into something else through shared vulnerability. The source mentions a moment involving a napkin.
The napkin detail. Okay, tell us about this. It sounds small, but it's huge.
It is small, but gestures are so often more telling than grand speeches. Olive gets emotional. She reveals more about her past, specifically about the foster care system.
Wait, she was in foster care?
The source notes that after her mother passed, she navigated the foster care system.
Wow.
That's a traumatic, unstable background. It explains her drive for self-reliance and maybe her skepticism about lasting relationships. She has learned that people leave.
So she opens up to Adam about this,
Mm-hmm.
and his reaction isn't to pity her or make some big speech.
He simply offers her a napkin.
Oh.
It's gentle. The source uses the word gentleness, a small gesture of containment. I am here. I see you're upset. Here's a tool to help. It's practical support, but it's so emotionally laden.
He facilitates the mess. He doesn't tell her to stop crying. He doesn't walk away.
He stays in the mess with her. And he opens up too, right? He talks about his own frustrations, his own isolation. They are trading secrets. In intelligence terms, they're building mutually assured destruction. I know your secrets, you know mine. But in relationship terms, that is intimacy. They are no longer just pretending to avoid gossip. They are relying on each other for emotional regulation.
Emotional regulation. That is such an expert way to say they make each other feel better. But it's true. When she's stressed about the meeting, he calms her down. When he's hurting from the flu shot, she teases him.
They're functioning as a couple.
They really are.
The function is preceding the form. They're acting like a couple in private, so the fake dating contract is becoming obsolete. The hypothesis that this is fake is being disproven by the data.
I love that. The data is rejecting the null hypothesis.
Precisely.
So we've covered a lot of ground in part 2. Let's recap. We saw them sell the relationship at the picnic, shirtless Adam and all. We saw the academic stakes rise with Dr. Benton and the pancreatic cancer research. We saw the friction with Greg, where Olive has to choose sides. And we saw the walls come down over text messages and napkins.
It's a critical transitional period in the narrative. They aren't strangers anymore, but they haven't admitted they're lovers. They're in the gray zone.
The gray zone is the best part. It's where all the tension is.
It is. But for Olive, it's also a dangerous zone. She is trusting a hypothesis that was never meant to be tested in the real world.
Yeah.
She is falling for a man who, on paper, she shouldn't be with, and she is risking her social standing in the department to do it.
And Adam is seemingly all in, right? I mean, the coaching, the protectiveness.
The signs point to yes. But for Olive, who struggles with self-worth and fears abandonment, given her background, believing that this god of biology actually likes her, that is a leap of faith she just isn't ready to take yet.
She still thinks it's part of the act.
She thinks he's just a really, really good actor, which is a defense mechanism. If it's just acting, she can't get hurt when the contract ends. If it's real, the ending is unknown. And scientists hate unknown variables.
Oh, that breaks my heart a little bit. If it's fake, I'm safe.
Exactly.
Well, listeners, I hate to leave you in the emotional gray zone, but that is where we are pausing for today. We have analyzed the charade, and we have seen the cracks forming.
But the real seismic shift is coming.
Oh, yes. Because if you thought the picnic was intense, just wait.
In our next episode, part 3, we're going to dive into chapters 9 through, well, the big ones. We're talking about the conference.
Conference, the only one bed trope.
We will discuss the growing vulnerability and specifically the fear of falling for a hypothesis that you know might break your heart. We'll see what happens when the lines completely blur and the emotional stakes hit their absolute peak.
It is going to be wild. You do not want to miss it.
Before we go, I want to leave you with a thought. We talked about cognitive dissonance today, holding two opposing beliefs about someone. I want you to think about the people in your own life. Is there someone you have categorized as a villain or a hero or a bore?
Oh, good homework.
Just check your data.
Yeah.
Sometimes the hypothesis you formed about a person 5 years ago or 5 minutes ago needs to be retested. Sometimes the scary professor is just a guy with a sore arm from a flea shot.
I love that. Retest your hypotheses, people.
In part 3 of The Love Hypothesis, we analyze chapters 9 through 12. We'll look at the fear of vulnerability and the turning point.
It is good to be back. And honestly, this is the part of the book where the scientific method just completely goes out the window for our main characters.
Oh, completely.
We are leaving, the controlled, sterile environment of the fake dating pact, and we are just plunging headfirst into the messy, unquantifiable chaos of actual human emotion.
Which is, it's terrifying for them, but let's be honest, it is great for us.
So great for us.
And just to orient you, because we are dropping right into the middle of the action here, we are tracking the trajectory of Olive Smith, our wonderfully anxious biology PhD student, and Adam Carlson, the professor who's supposedly the villain of the entire department.
Right, and context is really key here. Up until chapter 9, the main tension has been pretty external.
Yeah, logistical.
Exactly. Can they fool the department? Can they fool Olive's best friend? And
Right.
he was a problem they could manage,
Yeah.
a variable they could control.
Mm.
But as we get into Chapter 10, the problem becomes internal. The variables are all changing, and the equation it isn't balancing anymore.
We defined the mission for this deep dive as analyzing that collision between the fake arrangement and real feelings. And the hypothesis we're testing today is pretty interesting.
Go on.
Does external pressure, whether it's like a career crisis or just physical distance, does that act as a kind of forcing function for romantic progress?
Oh, that's a great way to put it. A forcing function. We're basically looking at catalysts.
Right.
In chemistry, a catalyst speeds up a reaction without being consumed by it. In the love hypothesis, the catalysts are things like, well, a flu shot, a panic attack in a Starbucks line.
And of course, a terrifying public speaking engagement.
All the classics.
So let's dive in, Chapter 10. We've titled this section The Internal Struggle, and that's not an exaggeration. Olive is really, really going through it.
Yeah, the narrative voice shifts pretty dramatically here. It's no longer just, oh, this is awkward, we're fake dating.
Oh, this is dangerous.
It's the shift from performance to reality. In the earlier chapters, Olive's internal monologue was totally focused on the mechanics of the lie. Hold my hand so Anne sees it.
Sit close to me so people talk. All strategy.
All strategy.
Yeah.
Now, she's noticing things about Adam that have absolutely nothing to do with their contract. She's noticing his hands, his voice, the way he looks at her when he thinks she's not looking. And the data point she is struggling with is, well, it's simple.
She likes him.
She really likes him.
But she doesn't just like him in that fun rom-com way where she's, doodling his name in a notebook.
No, not at all.
She treats this realization like she's just been given a diagnosis for a terminal illness.
Well,
She's actively fighting it.
because for Olive, it is a threat. And we have to look at the psychological profile Ollie Hazelwood has so carefully built for her. This isn't just, general shyness or social anxiety.
Oh, it's deeper.
It's so much deeper. The text explicitly references her time in the foster care system, losing her mother.
That's a really heavy anchor for what is, on the surface, a romantic comedy. But it explains so much of her behavior.
It explains the why. Why is she so resistant to intimacy? Why is she so quick to assume the absolute worst in any situation?
For someone with that background, the pattern has always been attachment leads to loss.
Always. If you care about someone, they leave, or they die, or you get moved to a new home. It's a learned response. So logically, and we have to remember, Olive is a scientist, she worships logic, the best way to avoid pain is to just avoid attachment altogether.
She's trying to firewall her heart. It's a defense mechanism, pure and simple.
I mean, if she can keep Adam in the fake category, she's safe. It's just a transaction. But the second he moves into the real category...
She's exposed. She's completely vulnerable.
Precisely. She is fighting this war between her amygdala, which is just screaming fear and danger and run, and her dopamine receptors, which are screaming, more Adam!
That is a battle.
It is. She wants to be close to him. That's the emotional data point. But her entire logical framework tells her that admitting those feelings is a one-way ticket to rejection and heartbreak.
And right in the middle of this huge existential crisis, this heavy internal warfare, Hazelwood just throws in this hilarious, totally mundane misunderstanding to keep us all grounded.
The flu shot incident. I love this scene so much.
It's perfect.
It serves such a specific and brilliant function in the narrative structure. It's like a sharp pivot from all the heavy emotional analysis we were just doing.
So set the scene for us. Olive is in the lab, right?
She is, and she is spiraling. Absolutely spiraling. Yeah. She sends a text to Adam, or I think she gets one from him, and because she's already primed for rejection, she interprets his brevity as like pure hostility.
This is confirmation bias 101. Her internal monologue is, I have feelings for him, therefore I am annoying him, therefore he wants to get rid of me.
Yes. So when he sends a short text, canceling their next fake date meeting, she doesn't read it as, oh, something came up. She reads it as, it's over. The deal is off. I hate you. Goodbye forever.
She is reading between the lines, but as you said before, she's reading a completely different book. She expects rejection, so she sees rejection in the data.
But the reality is so much more boring.
The reality is, the guy just got a flu shot.
That's it. That is the entire drama. He isn't brooding about their complicated relationship. He's not secretly plotting to end the contract. He is in actual physical pain because a needle went into his deltoid.
It just completely deflates that villain archetype. I'm sorry, you cannot be the scary, intimidating antagonist of the biology department if you are whining about a sore arm to your fake girlfriend over text.
It is such a brilliant narrative device because it instantly humanizes Adam. Up until this point, he's been the academic tyrant. But, tyrants don't whine about sore arms.
And notice the immediate shift in their dynamic. Olive goes from being the intimidated student to the caretaker.
Or seizes it.
She does. It becomes so domestic.
That word domestic is absolutely key. It implies a level of comfort and familiarity that just completely transcends the boundaries of their fake dating contract.
It's not some grand romantic gesture. It's not flowers or poetry. It's just banter. It's comfort. And I think that's actually way more dangerous for Olive's defenses than a dozen roses would be.
I agree 100%. You can guard yourself against grand gestures.
Yeah.
You can dismiss them as performative or, even manipulative. But comfort, ease, that stuff just sneaks right past the defenses.
It just lowers the barrier to entry for intimacy.
Exactly. When you are laughing at someone because they're being a total baby about a flu shot, you aren't afraid of them anymore. And if you aren't afraid of them,
You might accidentally fall in love with them.
whoops.
So while Olive is losing this huge battle against her own feelings, her friends, of course, decide to pile on. We have to talk about Anna and Malcolm in Chapter 10. They're like the Greek chorus of this whole romantic tragedy, just pushing the plot forward.
They're external data validators. That's what they are. Olive is busy gaslighting herself, telling herself she feels nothing, that it's all a charade. And Anne just looks at her and says, plain as day, you are smitten.
And Olive denies it like her life depends on it.
Because in her mind, it kind of does.
Mm-hmm.
But Anne isn't buying it for a second. Anne sees the chemistry. It's like when your friend notices you smiling at your phone before you even realize you're smiling. Anne is the mirror forcing Olive to look at the very thing she's denying.
Then there's Malcolm. The coffee shop scene with Malcolm is, I think, one of the most vulnerable moments for Olive so far in the book. She actually cracks the door open a little bit with him.
She does. She confides in him. And what's so fascinating is the nature of her confession. She talks about her reluctance to embrace feelings. She admits that her attraction is real and totally unexpected. And Malcolm doesn't just gossip. He offers this philosophical counter-argument to her fear.
What's the key takeaway for Malcolm there? What's he trying to tell her?
He challenges her core hypothesis. Olive believes that caring always leads to loss. That is her fundamental equation.
A plus B equals pain.
Right. And Malcolm pushes her to see that caring doesn't automatically equal loss. He validates her feelings. He says it's okay to feel this way. He basically disrupts her binary thinking.
He's saying, hey, maybe it won't end in a complete disaster. Maybe you're actually allowed to be happy, which is, for her, a really radical thought.
It's the pep talk she so desperately needs. But of course, in true rom-com fashion, just as she's having this vulnerable, honest moment in a very public Starbucks, disaster strikes. The climax of Chapter 10.
The he's right behind you trope. It is a staple of the genre for a very, very good reason.
Oh, it works every time because it creates instant visceral panic.
So paint the scene for us again.
Okay, so Olive is in Starbucks. She is deep in conversation with Malcolm, and I think Anna's maybe around the periphery of this. And she is essentially confessing her secret feelings. She is vocalizing the one thing she has sworn to hide. She is saying the quiet part out loud.
And then the twist.
She looks up, or turns around, and realizes Adam is standing directly behind her in line.
Ugh, my stomach drops just thinking about it. The stakes here are astronomical for her. It's not just embarrassing.
No, it's catastrophic.
If he heard her, the fake arrangement is compromised. The whole experiment is contaminated. She's terrified of being unveiled.
It is the literal collision of her two worlds. You have the private emotional struggle, which she keeps locked away inside her head or only shares with Malcolm. And then you have the physical reality of Adam Carlson. And when those two collide in a public space like Starbucks, Olive has absolutely nowhere to hide.
It creates this information asymmetry crisis. Olive knows she has feelings. Adam presumably thinks it's all business. If Adam overhears her, that power dynamic completely shifts.
Yes, she becomes the pining student, and he remains the aloof professor. It ruins the safety of the contract.
It ruins everything. So that brings us right into Chapter 11, the immediate aftermath. Panic mode is fully activated.
Chapter 11 is just defined by deception. Olive's reaction to that Starbucks encounter is, it's a masterclass in panic-induced fabrication.
Her fight-or-flight response just kicks in, and she chooses this really weird version of fight where she decides to fight the truth with a giant lie.
She lies. Oh boy, does she lie. To prevent Adam from knowing the truth, that she likes him, she invents a cover story. She tells him she's involved with another guy.
It's a purely defensive mechanism. If she's pining over some other guy, then anything Adam might have overheard about feelings or struggle is safely misattributed to this completely fictional third party.
It protects her pride, and it protects the parameters of their fake dating contract. Keeps her safe.
But it's so tragic. She's staring at the guy she likes, telling him she likes someone else just to keep him at arm's length. And let's look at Adam's reaction here. The text says he appears unfazed.
Which is so ambiguous, isn't it? Is that stoicism? Is it that he genuinely doesn't care? Or is he hiding his own hurt?
I have to think he's hiding it.
I do too. Given what we know about Adam's character, he is reserved, he plays his cards very close to the vest, it is highly, highly likely that unfazed is a mask, a very well-constructed mask.
He's a scientist, too. He's good at controlling his variables, controlling his expression. But this tension, this lie, just sitting between them at the table, it's excruciating.
And then, just when you think it can't get more awkward, we get a new player on the field. Dr. Rodriguez.
Holden.
Enter Holden. Just when the tension is at its absolute breaking point, Holden interrupts. And his role here is twofold. First, purely functional. He is comic relief. He breaks the awful silence.
Thank God for Holden.
But second, and I think more importantly, he reveals a completely new dimension of Adam.
Yes, Adam's interaction with Holden it's playful, it's relaxed, it's easy.
You have to contrast that with Adam's usual intimidating academic persona, or even his kind of stiff formal interactions with Olive in the beginning of their arrangement. With Holden, Adam is just a guy.
A friend.
A friend. They banter. Adam actually smiles, genuinely.
And Holden drops a few hints, right? He implies he's known Adam a long time and that there's more to him than what everyone at Stanford sees.
Which, of course, serves to make Adam even more attractive to Olive. It's a classic case of social proof.
What do you mean by that?
Well, if you want to know if someone is a good person, you don't look at how they treat you when they are trying to impress you or intimidate you, in Adam's case. You look at how they treat their old friends.
Right.
Seeing the person you are interested in having a genuine, warm, long-standing friendship with someone else is incredibly endearing. It's a huge data point.
It complicates her feelings even further because it completely dismantles the he's just a robot defense she might have been clinging to.
Oh, for sure. She wanted to keep Adam in the robot professor box. Seeing him be a good friend to Holden just makes him more human, more real.
And that reality brings on a wave of guilt. The text says she feels like she is disintegrating into a million tiny pieces from anxiety and guilt.
She's losing her structural integrity. She isn't holding herself together anymore. She's actively lying to a man who, it turns out, is actually a pretty great guy.
So what does she do? She runs.
The escape. She abruptly walks away, distances herself at the end of the interaction. It is a classic flight response. She has to remove herself from the stimulus Adam to protect herself from the vulnerability of the situation.
But as we move into chapter 12, she learns a very hard lesson. Distance doesn't actually fix the problem. In fact, it just highlights it.
And this is where we get to the turning point, absence and ambition.
So chapter 12 introduces the variable of absence. Adam travels. He's physically gone from campus.
And you would think, given how incredibly stressed she was in chapter 11, that this would be a relief for her. Cool, he's gone. I can relax. I can finally breathe.
But the data shows the complete opposite. The Stanford campus feels strangely empty to her without him.
It's the void. It is. And this is a very common phenomenon in psychology. When you're in the presence of a high-stress or high-emotion stimulus, your system is just flooded with chemicals. When that stimulus is removed, you don't just go back to baseline immediately. You feel the drop. You feel the lack of dopamine and adrenaline.
The mundane tasks, her lab work, grading, the things that usually occupy her entire brain, they suddenly feel less appealing. Her thoughts are just drifting to him.
This is the absence makes the heart grow fonder hypothesis being tested in real time. The physical distance removes the immediate threat of his presence, right? Which allows her to safely acknowledge the emotional closeness she actually craves.
So when he's there, she's panicked.
But when he's gone, she's longing. It clarifies the results of the experiment for her. The conclusion is undeniable. She misses him.
And while she's sort of wallowing in this void, trying to figure out why the campus feels so big and empty, all of a sudden the universe decides to kick her while she's down. She gets a notification.
The professional milestone. This is huge. Her research abstract on the early detection of pancreatic cancer has been accepted by a major conference.
Which is, I mean, that's the holy grail for a PhD student, right? Getting your abstract accepted is the dream.
It is massive validation.
Yeah.
It's proof that her work has merit, that she belongs. But there is a catch.
A big catch.
A huge one. It wasn't just accepted for a poster session. It was selected for an oral presentation.
And for anyone who hates public speaking, this is a nightmare disguised as a dream.
Olive's reaction is immediate, absolute terror. She panics. She doubts her own capability. We are seeing classic imposter syndrome in real time.
She thinks I am a fraud, and now I have to go up on a stage and prove it to everyone in my field.
But luckily, she has Dr. Aslan.
Her mentor.
Yes, he plays such a crucial role here. He pushes her. He believes in her potential more than she does herself. He forces her to seize the opportunity. He simply will not let her hide.
So she has this massive career hurdle looming. She shares the news with Malcolm and An, and they are supportive, mostly.
Well, they're emotionally supportive, but physically,
Mm.
logistically, it's a complete disaster.
Mm.
Autumn reveals that she's already made other lodging plans for the conference and didn't even think to include Olive.
Ouch. That has to sting.
It leads to this profound sense of isolation. Olive feels completely and utterly alone. She's facing this major career hurdle, public speaking, which is terrifying for her. And now she's also facing logistical loneliness. She has nowhere to stay in a strange city.
And this brings us to the convergence of storylines right at the end of chapter 12.
Exactly. Olive is grappling with two massive stressors at the exact same time. One, the chaos of her romantic feelings for Adam, who is currently absent, leaving her with this emotional void.
And two, the terror of the upcoming professional presentation combined with the logistical loneliness of the conference.
It's the perfect storm. Her career and her heart are both reaching a breaking point at the same time.
And this synthesis here is really key, isn't it? These two things aren't separate issues.
Not at all. The emotional vulnerability makes the professional anxiety harder to bear, and the professional stress makes her crave emotional support even more. She is just being squeezed from both sides. She feels isolated physically and emotionally.
Which leads us to the setup for what comes next, the transition to chapter 13 and the whole conference arc.
We've now connected the fear of vulnerability from chapters 10 and 11 with the fear of public speaking in chapter 12. Olive is now vulnerable on all fronts.
And where is this pressure cooker going to finally explode?
The conference. The story moves to a new location. We are leaving the lab. We're going to a hotel.
And we have to tease the trope here because the source material explicitly mentions it. Olive arrives at the conference, and her housing situation is still completely unresolved.
And who else just so happens to be this very same conference?
Adam.
Of course, Adam.
And the source material hints that they decide to share a room.
The one-bed trope. Or at the very least, the forced proximity scenario. It's happening.
But what I love is the rationale that's provided in the text. It says Olive thinks sharing a room will deepen their friendship.
Friendship. Right. Because, sharing a small enclosed hotel room with a guy you are secretly, desperately in love with is famously a great way to keep things platonic.
The irony is just palpable.
She is walking directly into the lion's den, convinced she is going to a petting zoo.
Exactly. The environment is changing from the safe, controlled familiarity of the Stanford lab to a hotel room where the lines between fake and real are just going to completely blur.
It sets the stage for everything to change.
It really does. So as we wrap up this deep dive into these middle chapters, let's leave our listeners with a provocative thought.
I've been thinking about this. We see Olive, and she is willing to lie, to construct this entire elaborate fake relationship, all for the sake of science, to protect her friend, to stay in the lab she needs.
Right. She's putting in so much effort to maintain the facade.
So the question for you listening is this. Is it easier to fake a relationship than to admit you have real feelings? Olive is willing to lie and pretend for the sake of appearances, but the moment the variable becomes love, the moment it becomes real, the whole experiment just falls apart?
Yeah.
Why is the truth so much scarier than the lie?
That is the core of the human condition, isn't it? A lie keeps you safe, it keeps you in control. The truth requires you to be seen, and being truly seen is the scariest thing in the world.
That is something to chew on.